Good. I can feel your anger. I am defenseless. Take your weapon. Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
One day you're gonna have to face the deep, dark truth from mirror. And it's gonna tell you things that I still love you too much to say. The sky was just a purple bruise. The ground was iron. And you fell all around the town until you looked the same. Same eyes, same lips, same line from your tongue trips. Deep dark truth for mirrors.
There was a period when I really did not like Harrison Ford movies.
Would that be now?
Yeah. Like,
let's start off positive.
like after he made like Indiana Jones, he went into like he made Frantic and Working Girl.
Ah, yes, Working Girl with our
that actress we couldn't name, Tippi Hedren's daughter, who was mauled.
All we knew about her was she was mauled by a lion and she was in Milk Money.
All right, no, she was in Working Girl.
She was in Working Girl, opposite
Harrison Ford.
That's
Lame
right.
Harrison Ford.
So don't let anyone tell you this podcast isn't about Star Wars.
Right. And her name was?
Melanie Griffin. Meg Ryan. But, no, it was Melanie Griffin.
Yeah, what happened to Harrison Ford's career, though? Like, he just got, like...
Haze. Oh, that period?
Yeah, that period.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think you're kind of writing off some things. There was...
Witness.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Regarding Henry's in 92,
That's
right?
kind of... Yeah, but it's like milquetoast Harrison Ford.
Oh, yeah.
He lost the swagger.
Oh, I mean, you still get your Patriot games, and you still get your... But I don't actually like those movies as much as I think I do.
Yeah.
Whenever I go back to watch them, I don't enjoy them as much.
What was it, Air Force One?
Where he's the president?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get off my plane.
That is always like stuck in the flurry of like various airplane disaster
I don't know what
movies.
happened to his career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
know.
Harrison Ford needs to get his swagger back.
Yeah, it's funny when you started out and you hit record and you're like, you know what? I know just how I'm going to start this episode. I didn't think we were going to bash on Harrison.
Oh no, I totally was going to bash him.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Well, guys, if you can't figure it out, this is a Star Wars podcast. It's called
Delusions of Granular.
I am JP.
I am Ron.
We have a website where we have all of our previous episodes, correct?
You can download them directly from delusionsofgranular.com.
Also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcatchers, I'm sure.
That's right.
Or go say hi to us over at facebook.com/SWDog. And don't forget to tweet at us and retweet us at
SWDog77.
And feel free to call us with corrections, comments, complaints. It's 651-337-9364. The number again is 651-33-SW-DOG.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's our business for today.
That is our business.
Nice.
My first talking point was actually just to correct us that person we were trying to talk about last week was Melanie Griffith.
That's right. We could not think of her name at all.
Yeah. Well, it is talking about someone's career. When you actually Google her, Meg Ryan pops up a lot.
Yeah,
she's this kind of cross nexus between Sharon Stone and Meg Ryan and
I mean, it's not to jump on the bandwagon that Hollywood is jumping on, but female actresses, they really have nowhere to go once they hit age 40.
Well, at age 30, man, it's rough. Ask Deborah Winger. She left because of that.
Right? Yeah. Sad.
Yeah.
Melanie Griffith, R.I.P.
All right. And that's our Misery Minute. You know what, Ron? Speaking of, thankfully, we retired Misery Row.
Yeah. As soon as we retired it, Peter Mayhew snapped out of it.
It goes to show, we used to have a feature on the show, longtime listeners will know, where we would go run down the people who have died.
Yeah.
Especially people connected to Star Wars.
Right, or people close to death.
It became very mean-spirited. We received a lot of bad feedback on that. And ultimately, I felt that it was what gave Peter Mayhew the flu a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
And put him in the
Pneumonia,
hospital.
right? Pneumonia?
Yeah,
Or flu.
pneumonia.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. He had pneumonia, and at his age, that could be very bad. I feel like the Ashra and the Boga were looking down on us and judging us, and so as a sacrifice for his health, we gave up Misery Row, and instantly he was discharged.
That's right.
Goes to show. Goes to show.
That's right. Get your flu shots, folks.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all been pretty coherent so far.
Yeah. Do we can jump into
Yeah, we got all
Ron's
kinds of
ridiculous
topics.
roundup?
This is a big episode.
All right. So this isn't. I've noticed this story floating around the internet in the last week. And somebody has gone and proven that our favorite actress Natalie Portman, Padme, she did not die of a broken heart.
How so?
So we all assume that when she in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
At the end there, she's given childbirth, and the doctor droid, says she died. She lost the will to live.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the diagnosis.
Anakin went somewhere she couldn't follow.
Right.
He broke her heart.
It's our favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Right. So the fan theory that's floating around is that she did not actually die of a broken heart because that's never actually said in the film.
Right.
The droid just said that she lost the will to live.
Yes.
Right. But prior to that, you actually see her kind of like fighting to push the kids out.
Yes,
right?
using open needles.
Yeah, clearly
sleeping around. Yeah.
No, she was actually like kind of like it's not like she gave up on the birth.
Oh.
Like she's actually like
she pushes it.
Yeah, she pushes it.
Well, we don't know that. It could have been a C-section.
Right. Okay, but here's the defining thing that proves that she didn't die of a broken heart or lost the will to live. Mm-hmm. Because that's happening on
Lothal.
Lothal, because everything happens on Lothal after episode 3. Between episode 3 and episode 4, it's all Lothal. No, that's where is that? Is that happening on the Blockade Runner?
I guess it must be.
I guess
I would have
that's
to.
Weird.
Yeah, I would have to.
It's not happening on Alderaan.
I have to put that question out to the listener base to correct us.
I would guess that's happening. Maybe it's not happening on Coruscant. They can't go back there.
No. That's
weird.
Well, then again, on the other side, Count Dooku comes and goes from Coruscant as he pleases. So
that's true. Well, yeah, but
security isn't all.
That was before the Empire.
Before Order 66.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
So I guess Luke and Leia were bored on was it Tantive 5, Tantive 4, whatever that ship was called.
Possibly pulled out of a dead mother.
So, but the thing is, they were not on Mustafar.
No.
Or they weren't on Coruscant.
Hopefully not on Mustafar.
Well,
that'd be interesting.
Well, so the theory here is they're far, far away from where the Emperor and Darth Vader are.
A long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yes.
Right? And Vader has his kind of Frankenstein birth.
No. Yeah.
Right? And
which I've grown to like.
The Emperor, Vader's like, where's Padme?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Wait. It's like the Buffalo Bill voice in Silence of the Lambs. Where's Padme? Was she a great big fat lady?
And the Emperor knows immediately what happened to her. Mm-hmm. Right? How does he know? That's the big fan theory here.
The Force.
The Emperor knows, but he doesn't know that there's 2 kids born.
He's in contact with the Ashra or the Boga.
But he doesn't know that the kids are born. So the fan theory here is that the Emperor knows that Padme's dead because he killed her.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because I was about to say, because usually there's kind of a magic rule, and like when you're fighting ghosts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like ghosts can't really kill,
Right.
And I was kind of thinking the same way with the Force, but that's not true. You see Darth Vader strangle Force people all the time.
Sure.
So, and the Emperor is pretty powerful. I mean, makes sense he could reach out and.
Right. And I think tonight's episode will talk about how much.
Wait. Sorry. So there's also a theory that he also created Anakin through Force power stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is all EU legends.
Yes.
But I'm talking about
but it's not disproven legends.
It's not disproven. No.
And so what I'm saying here is like, so if he did, that's kind of that puts him in a weird place. Like if he created Anakin, with dark force powers,
yes,
with or without the knowledge of Darth Plagueis,
yes,
then he like killed. So then theoretically, Luke and Leia are conceived naturally, right?
I guess they got it on. Right? Yeah, Anakin and Padme got it on. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we see him roll in the field. We know what it means.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. So then he kills her, and then I don't know, man. It gives a whole other level of depth to that confrontation between him and Luke.
Well, okay, but the Emperor, just the Emperor's view of things, like he needs to. Like, if Padme is still around, and this is what the fan theory is, if Padme is still around, then Vader still has hope of not being Vader, right?
Right.
He could still, go back to the light side where Padme is, because he loves Padme, right?
Yeah.
But if the Emperor gets rid of Padme, then Vader is all his. Yeah. There's no conflict there in Vader's mind.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the theory, is that the Emperor actually killed Padme so that Vader is, beholden to the Emperor, and there's no grayness in Vader's mind.
Which I always keep going back to. Sorry, I keep tying this back to this theory that Emperor created Anakin.
Right.
Because that's one of the few things that I can look at and be like, why does he want that shitty hunk of flesh that's all burned up?
His mind. He wanted him for his mind.
He needed someone who was flawless, except for his one fear: sand. That's his one hate, actually. Anyhow, well, it's a lot to think on, Ron.
It is a lot to think on, But I'm always, I like the theories that kind of are trying to analyze the prequels a little bit more instead of just hating on them. I'm always for those theories. So, here's to that fan theory that there's more going on at the end of 3 than we might actually realize.
Speaking of well thought out theories, friend of the show Mike Climo has just been featured in Star Wars Insider.
That's right. Pick up your copy of the latest issue of Star Wars Insider. It's hitting newsstands now. It's actually the March 2015 issue.
This is issue 155, and it says on the bottom, please display until March 9th.
Nice.
So you have until March 9th, folks. Run out and get Walgreens or where have you.
It's got everyone's favorite hairless Wookiee on the cover, Zeb from Rebels.
That's right.
And it's a pretty heavy Rebels issue, but yeah, Mike, who we talked to a few episodes ago, he has a full-blown interview in there about his ring theory, where he goes on to continue to explain his theory, and it's very well written and very thought out, and we applaud Mike for all the fame that he's getting from his theory. Way to go, Mike.
Very good, Mike. Very good.
Yes.
And a fantastic compliment to this article would be our episode from, 2 episodos ago?
Yeah.
Our episode, ring theory to rule them all?
That's right. So listen to that if you haven't listened to it. Go ahead and read or download it, and you'll get to hear from the author himself.
That's right. So that's pretty cool. And you know what's funny? I haven't picked up an issue of Star Wars Insider in probably years.
I kind of feel like they haven't been on the news racks for years, and now with Star Wars kind of the resurgence happening, I've noticed that I picked this one up at Walgreens,
right?
So it caught my eye and I saw it, but
so the distributors or the buyers or whoever is being like, hey, Star Wars is cool again.
Yeah, we can make some money off this. Let's throw it on the shelf.
It feels, I know it's kind of silly, but it feels good to hold a Star Wars magazine. It somehow makes it more legitimate,
right?
More than going to shitty websites and being like,
well, I found was funny about this magazine.
No,
almost all the ads in it are actually for Star Wars things. You never flip through it and it's hey, here's an ad for Pepsi.
And if they're not Star Wars things, they're at the very least like geeky shit. Like I saw an ad for that had like Jack Katz's First Kingdom, which is a bizarre fantasy graphic novel.
Right. But it's not like it's, like there's no, ads for anything outside of like, comic books and it's all, it's all very related. Yeah. It's almost like there's no ads. Like as you're flipping through it, you feel like there's no ads. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, like this ad for a bunch of new sci-fi collections of comics. That's more like informational. It's like, oh, good, that's out.
Yeah.
I can buy Johnny Nemo. Excellent. Speaking of comics, Ron.
Yeah.
Not going to talk about the topic yet. Going to talk about Star Wars.
Star Wars 1.
Marvel.
Yeah.
So, all right, you bought the new Marvel comic book Star Wars.
Yes.
I was on the fence for a long time. Then it came down that I was not going to purchase it.
Okay.
And
I brought it here tonight, and I'm shoving it in your face and making you read it.
And I respect all the creators involved.
Yes.
And it looks a lot better than I thought the previews did online. John Cassidy, brings John Cassidy.
Right.
And Jason Aaron, you said from the writing, I haven't gotten to read it all, but you said it felt Star Wars.
It felt good. Star Wars, yeah. I don't want to give it all away. I figure we'll have an episode where we talk about maybe all the first issues when they're out. But I think it's good, and I look forward to you reading it and giving me your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I enjoy this depiction of Chewbacca.
Yeah,
I think he does a good Chewbacca, and I think he does a nice active Chewbacca, which is always welcome.
He's not so ape-like he has been in past Marvel.
Yeah, and you get so
old Marvel comics.
A lot of people don't really know what to do with Chewbacca. He spends a lot of time in the background of scenes, just kind of like hanging out.
Right.
So it's nice to see him actually like leaping and jumping. And I gotta say, the previews for the other ones look, decent. We have our problems with the Darth Vader thing.
Yeah.
But we'll get to all that when the time comes.
Yes. Last week we talked about Shadows of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
This week we're going to talk about another EU. This was just a comic that came out early in the EU run.
Yep.
It takes place 5 or 6 years after Return of the Jedi.
That's right. Goes very hand in hand with the Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah.
In fact, it's released around the time of the second book.
Yeah, right? Well, we'll get to that because there's a little bit of controversy. But what we're going to talk about is...
This is?
The Dark Empire episode.
Step on that, please.
We're going to talk about Dark Empire.
Dark Empire, that's right.
Dark Empire.
Ken Kennedy, Tom Veitch.
Dark Horse
Dave
releases...
Dorman.
Dark Empire came out in 91.
This is Dark Horse's first run out the gate.
That's
with,
right.
The Star Wars license.
Yeah, the first
non-Marvel Star Wars.
That's right.
First non-Marvel Star Wars.
Right. This was big. This was big.
This is huge.
Yeah, this was big at the time.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I had a lot of fun with this.
Oh yeah.
I had a lot of fun revisiting this one, more so than Shadows. I think Shadows is what it is.
Yep.
Whether it stands the test of time or not, I think we gave it its due.
Agreed.
This one, I went into it thinking, it's going to kind of be another Shadows of the Empire. Not really enjoying it, but not really like this.
Well, yeah, we were more interested in the thinking behind Shadows than actual Shadows. I think.
Right.
This, I was into it, man. I was in the story.
This was
I had
good.
A fun time.
This was fun, yeah. And the funny thing is, I did not enjoy this when it came out.
Interesting.
When I first read this, I did not care for it. And I think I was too close to the movies at the time, or too close to, I hadn't really lived other stories beyond Star Wars, prior to this. Maybe I'd read Thrawn trilogy, maybe maybe a couple old Han Solo novels, but I hadn't really stepped away from, there can be more to these characters than just what happened.
Perhaps we can say it this way.
Yeah.
Up until this point, Star Wars existed in two places for you.
Yes.
Film
Yes.
and your mind.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And to see it rendered somewhere else other than toys, which are kind of an extension of your mind,
Exactly.
was jarring.
It was jarring, yeah. Yeah. And I'll say this. I, at the time, not now, but at the time,
Yes.
Cam Kennedy, who's the artist on this, did not care for his style.
Has a very distinct, very graphic style.
yeah.
Very graphic in terms of being more about shape and color, more abstracted than not naturalistic.
Abstract is a good word to use. Yeah, these were not like you look at the
Very
main
designy.
character. Yeah, you look at the main characters and you don't read Harrison Ford, you don't read Mark Hamill, you don't read Carrie Fisher.
Yes.
But that was then. This is now. I pick it up and I'm fascinated by the art. The art is, I'm more mature. I've moved away from what Star Wars can and can't be.
Yep.
Opened my mind a little bit. Lived my life a little bit.
Sure.
Have experienced other pieces of work outside of Star Wars. So now I look at this artwork and I'm like, yeah, this is a very interesting style.
Broad-minded comic book fans and European fans will know Cam Kennedy from his work on 2000 AD, specifically Judge Dredd, and probably more so for Rogue Trooper.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
Very, very, very technically gifted in terms of just draws machinery just phenomenal, and draws kind of troops and gear and stuff phenomenal. He's really guys with helmets. I mean, he goes on to do probably the definitive comic book adaptations of Boba Fett.
Sure. And he draws machinery. Like all the ships in this look very heavy, and they look very like they're not streamlined in any way, which to me is very Star Wars when the ships are not streamlined.
Yeah, when they look kind of like worn and
and they're new ships. There's a lot of new ships in this, and they feel at the time. I was a little bit thrown off by the art, but looking back on it now, like you see a lot of destruction, the results of the war. That's progresses, and you see this in the ships, and like the Millennium Falcon still, but you see a lot of blown up TIE fighters. You see the new Death Star fill-in, because every EU thing kind of has a Death Star fill-in, and we'll get to that in a minute.
And that's something I wanted to say. Like it's a great book. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's just 6 issues. It's a quick, fun read. But inside that read, you get literally the best and the worst that Star Wars EU can give you.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of there's stuff that
it's a real good snapshot.
The EU is always guilty of, and this does not. This has everything that the EU is guilty of, but it's still a very fun read. And it's still very. It's just it holds up. It holds up.
And you have to keep in mind this is in a period where there haven't been Star Wars comics for a while. Star Wars hasn't been that popular for a while.
Right.
Like the Thrawn book is out, but like I've read interviews with Cam Kennedy where he talks about going to conventions and fans just running up and just hugging him, being like, like, oh, thank you so much for giving us this, like, because they were just rabid, starved fans.
Sure. Well, before we get into the details of the book, let's let's give due to the other creator of the book.
Of course.
Tom Veitch.
Tom Veitch?
Tom Veitch is the writer.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, if it's Veitch, but let's say Veitch and just know that we'll fix it if someone corrects us.
Sure.
So
he wrote it.
Yep, brother of Rick Veitch, famous comic book artist / writer, worked on the famous Alan Moore run of Swamp Thing, did a bunch of his own stuff, Brat Pack, Max Immortal, real grade A guy.
Yeah.
And I believe Tom put this project together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Because I think originally they approached Archie Goodwin over at Marvel, who was running their Epic line. That was their creator-owned stuff and licensed stuff. And they had lost the license to Star Wars.
Right. This was being created for Marvel originally.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But so this started out as a Marvel a Marvel book, and it
because
kind
Tom
of quickly
and,
became a dark horse when they won the license.
right, because Tom and Cam had worked at Marvel for Epic previously, doing the Light and Darkness War.
Okay,
So,
all right.
Yep.
And the other creator we probably should give mention to is Dave Dorman, who did
Yeah.
the covers.
Yeah, big,
six covers.
I would say those covers do a hell of a job of selling the book.
Yeah.
Because-
very different style from what's inside, but
Oh, yeah.
still a very Dave Dorman goes on to create a lot of the covers for the EU novels.
Dave Dorman has a hell of a career in the 90s and aughts.
Yeah. So together these three guys, they weren't the only creators.
And let's not forget Todd Klein, the letterer.
Sure.
Todd Klein, famous letterer, has done probably most of the modern logos. He's
Right.
real top notch.
Yeah, so they
All grade A guys.
They put together a hell of a book. All right. So what is this book about?
Well,
Dark Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I can sum it up in probably one sentence.
Okay.
Luke turns to the dark side.
Luke threatens to turn to... Yeah. Yes.
All right? This is like Luke. This is what happens if Luke actually decides, I'm going to go to the dark side. I'm going to see what this is about.
I'm going to dance to the dark side a little bit. Yeah.
So I think that again was one of those things that as I read it as a younger guy, I was like, no, this can't be. That's impossible.
Yeah.
Right? But now I'm like, I'm open to it. Why not? Let's explore that. See where that goes.
We all kind of feel like that might be happening in the movie coming up soon.
That's right. So, Luke turns to the dark side. Another big thing happens in this book. The Emperor.
That's right.
The Emperor didn't die.
Thought dead.
Right?
Yes.
Thought dead, but doesn't. He's not. He's not dead. He's actually brought back to life because he can transfer his body or his soul from body to body, and he has his own. He's cloned himself.
That's right. Now, I guess we're just going to kind of start organically getting into this.
Yeah, let's just get into it.
So this is one of my favorite elements of the book, is that I don't know if any element particularly works better than another, but I really appreciate how logical it is on some level.
Sure.
Like, in the end of each issue, there is a ton of back matter. I don't know if these are reproduced in the trades or not, but there's like 3 to 4 pages of just dense text.
Yes.
From Tom Veitch, talking about what he was thinking in the background of things. And so the thinking here is, the Emperor says, I can feel your anger. I am defenseless. Take your weapon, strike me down with all your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete in Jedi. So the thinking here is, well, why was he so, readily acceptant of the idea that he could be strucken down?
Right.
If he didn't know that he could survive this.
Sure.
That
Right.
he didn't know he could transfer himself.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I can buy into that.
It does. It does make a lot of sense. And it's
Now that you keep following that kind of thinking, though,
well,
and then you get to other things.
You do get to other things, but the other thing it does is like you have to remember, like, this came out before anybody knew that there was going to be prequels, and they were actually going to get into the Clone War, the Clone Wars. So, like, they actually kind of explore what clones are in Star Wars. And this is before we know that, the clones were, based off of, Jango Fett.
Who knew that?
Yeah, so, the Emperor is using clone technology for his own means.
Right.
And it's different from the clone technology that we've seen in the actual prequels, but again, we didn't really know. We didn't know any of this was going to ever be explored in movies.
Right.
So they explored it in this comic book, and we see the Emperor kind of coming out of these slimy egg type things, cocoons.
Sure.
Naked and young.
It's very sensual.
Yeah.
So I don't want to let's just put up a spoiler alert here.
Yeah, as always.
It's always a spoiler alert here on SW Dog. But I think we can just kind of run through the basic plot points real quick.
Okay.
Just
all right.
That way that's out of the way and we can just talk real in depth about
Sure.
it. Granular.
Sure.
Okay, so it's 6-issue miniseries. starts out, Han and Leia are married.
Han and Leia are married.
They have twins.
They have twins already. Yeah. She's pregnant with a third child.
She is pregnant. They're still hanging out with Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And for at least the first 2 issues, they also have a couple other companions. Little furry.
Yeah, the Ewoks.
They have a couple Ewoks.
They're in the background. They're not actually like main characters, but you see them. The Ewoks are clearly there.
Right. Which I love, because that's more of that linear thinking of like, well, she clearly really liked these Ewoks.
Yeah, so she took them with.
Yeah, and hey, Han's got a big furry buddy.
That's right.
Why wouldn't she have a couple little teddy bears?
She has a couple little furry buddies.
Yeah, there's a great little shot, and you can see it in the background of like them after a battle shaking hands with Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's funny. But so what's going on at the beginning of this book is the Empire, the Imperials, are actually split into 2 factions, and they're warring amongst themselves.
Now, Ron, does this sound familiar to you? Because one thing I did notice right away was that it has the opening scroll.
Yes, every issue has the opening crawl.
Only theirs is like 6 paragraphs long,
right?
Which is about double the length of usual.
Yeah,
but here's the basic setup: is that the end of Jedi wasn't actually the end; it was a false end.
Yeah,
the war continued and raged for years.
Right.
To the point where the Empire has kind of restructured itself, but there's been a civil war of power within the Empire, and basically it's kind of a power vacuum at this point.
Yeah,
and it's about 6 years after, 10 years after.
I think it's between 5 and 6.
So,
I think it's between 5 and 6 years after.
Okay, so
so the fighting continues.
Now, tell me if that sounds familiar to you, Ron. Where have I heard that synopsis
recently? We could easily be talking about episode 7.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's what's funny about this. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to talk about this now is because like a lot of what we perceive to be the rumors of Empire of episode 7 are kind of taken from this book.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Like the Empire didn't fall, and it's the war has continued, and
civil war.
It seems like everyone's kind of fatigued by the war.
Right. Yeah.
We have Lando and Luke at the beginning of this book, kind of fighting the factions of the warring factions of the Empire. They're on a Star Destroyer, and it crashes, and Luke and Leia and Han have to go and rescue them.
Leia just shows off her newly found force powers.
Right.
Where she literally, like, Han is shooting these creatures that have been unleashed at him, and she's like, oh, that's such a clumsy way to do it. Why don't I just confuse them with the Force?
Right.
And which is also another great EU thing of, like, suddenly the Force is just super OP. Because in the following scene...
There's a lot of overpowered characters in this.
In the following scene, Luke brings down like an AT-AT.
Yeah, he single-handedly brings down an AT-AT. Yeah. So right away we meet Luke. They rescue Luke. Luke is kind of there. Lando is like grateful for being rescued. And Luke, everyone's like, well, where's Luke? And Luke kind of emerges from the smoke and the shadows. Yeah, and this is not the same Luke.
They lost contact with Luke.
Yeah, this is not the same Luke we're familiar with from the movies.
Right.
Again, another thing that threw me off when I first read this as a younger person.
But once again, I follow linear thinking.
This is linear thinking,
because it's like you have Luke in A New Hope. He's wearing pure white. Mm-hmm. Then he's kind of wearing this yellow jumpsuit in the second. And by the third, he's wearing all black priest stuff.
Yeah.
And by this one, he's wearing full out Vader outfit minus helmet.
Right. And it also follows logic with a line from the movie where, once you follow the path of the dark side, forever will it, dominate your life. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm paraphrasing.
Sure, yeah.
Right? But like Luke did kind of, follow, he did touch on the dark side a little bit in the movies. I mean, he got close. He let anger almost get the best of him in Return of the Jedi. He raises, he raises his weapon in rage, right?
Yeah. Big time.
He chops off Vader's arm, and that's when he realized that he turned to the dark side because he saw, he almost turned to the dark side, right? So this is still kind of on his mind, and we're seeing that like this is a darker Luke than what we he's expected.
He's gotten. It seems like he's also kind of like leveled up so much in the Force where he's gotten a little bit bored.
Yeah,
and also maybe a little war fatigued. Like Anakin was in Clone Wars.
There's a lot of war fatigue in this. So
that was the other thing we didn't mention. They're going to rescue Luke.
Yes.
Because they've lost contact with him.
They lost contact.
Han and Leia are going on this rogue mission to rescue him. And they find him. He doesn't want their help, doesn't want to be with them. And this big battle ensues when suddenly a giant...
Force storm
comes down.
Yeah, nice force storm.
Yeah.
And kind of takes Luke and R2. Because R2's kind of stuck in the middle of all this because he decides to go with his master.
Yeah.
And like R2 really shouldn't have gone with his master.
Son.
Yeah.
As we know now.
Yeah, so Luke and R2 get kind of taken almost like they're caught in the eye of the tornado of this force storm.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wormhole looking thing.
Yeah. And they end up being captured somehow by the Imperials.
Well, I think they're transported to Biss, right?
Yeah, but there's like a scene where they're like in this like weird cage.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, they are in a cage on Biss where the... Now,
Biss is a planet that we're not really...
it's an evil planet.
Yeah, we're not really familiar with this canon-wise.
Right, but
it's kind of a dark force planet.
Biss is an ominous place, a place of ominous peace and harmony. That's a quote from the book.
Like, it's where the dark side lives.
Yeah,
right?
and you know what? That's another funny thing. I'm glad you mentioned dark side.
Yes.
Because that is referred to throughout this thing as like Han even talks about it as if it's a country or something.
Right.
Like the dark side's got him.
Yeah.
We got to stop the dark side.
Biss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Biss is the dark side. Which is, I mean, that is kind of like Lucas had that idea with the Ashra and the Bogan. Like those were two planets.
Not the Boga?
Boga, whatever.
I don't know. I think it's Bogan. I don't know.
Bogan?
I just kept saying Boga earlier.
Okay.
I don't know what the right one is.
I don't know.
Booger.
Booger
from the nerd show.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
But like that was like Lucas had that early on.
Yeah.
Is there was a dark side planet and a light side planet, and that was never explored in the movies. But the EU picked up on that, and back in when they're talking about the early days, the tales of the Jedi that happened thousands of years in the past. Right. So this idea of a planet being all evil is an idea that's there. It's just never really been picked up upon, in canon, but it's something that the EU picks up upon.
Now, this is where the Emperor has his base of operations.
Oh, but the Emperor's back.
That's right. Well, hold on, though. Because before we meet the Emperor, we meet his select group of dark side adepts.
Yes, dark adepts. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this also sounds like an Episode 7 thing to me. Like more helpers.
Yeah, like Inquisitors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like Inquisitors.
Right.
So, anyhow.
And Luke is like so overpowered that he's just like, they're like trying to kind of escort him, and he's like, I know where I need to go. And he like just kind of shrugs them off.
Yeah, he like force pushes them, and it's like I'm here because I'm willing to be here.
Right.
And
then R2's like, I don't want to be here.
And they kind of like play it off too. They're like, let him go and think he's here because he wants to be here. And the whole book really kind of does a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's like I'm dark now. And it's like I think he's dark. It's like he could never really be dark.
Right. So then we have Luke, Han and Leia.
Yes.
And they're kind of they're with the Rebel Alliance. And is it called the Rebel Alliance in this, or is it called the New Alliance?
It's the New Republic, correct?
I don't think it's called the Republic in this. I think it's just the Alliance. I don't think the Republic has been a part of this. But they're kind of like, oh, Luke, Leia's like, Luke needs to go off and do his own thing, and I want to be there to help him, but he's got to do his own thing, and he doesn't want our help.
Yeah,
and they're kind of a little bit like...
There's a lot of wishy-washy
there's
shit
there's a lot of wishy-washy stuff going on with Han and Leia at this point. We're only like maybe on the second book of this. Like Han has to go off and train like new cadets.
Yeah.
I'm like, what a waste of a character. Like, yeah, like, and even he's like, what the fuck am I doing?
I don't understand. I mean, like, so long story short, they eventually, so they have to leave the Alliance because Leia freaks out, has a vision of Luke as Darth Vader, and
Yes.
it's like, we have to go back. We have to
They
save
have to go
him.
back.
It was
Yeah.
a mistake to leave in the first place.
Right.
But they have to go to Biss. And
Well, they have to figure out where he is. Right?
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, they don't go right to Biss.
Well, but they have to. But the reason they're going to the other place is because they have to find someone that can trade in that deep sector or whatever.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
the deep core.
Yes.
Right?
So they go to
Narshada.
Narshada.
Now, Narshada is actually, and I don't know the timing of this, but was actually, I believe, mentioned in one of the video games.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Hutta, is that a thing?
Now, Hutta and Narshada, I believe, were like the planet and the moon, and these are Hutt.
Colonies.
Yeah, they're like
Homeworlds.
Hutt homeworlds.
Yes.
Okay. So they go, and this is a very underground, seedy planet.
Yep.
Right?
And this is very 2080 looking.
Yeah. And also it's a planet where Han used to live.
Yeah, he's got an apartment
Right?
there.
Yeah, so this is like we meet up with like people from Han's past. You know, other scoundrels and smugglers that he's dealt with.
Yeah.
Right? And these people, let's just kind of go down, are Mako Spince, right?
Yeah, okay.
Sala Zen,
Sure.
and Shug Nintz.
No, that's Suge Knight. He was actually
Suge Knight.
He's Death Row Records. That's a different thing.
No, Shug Nintz?
Nintz?
I've never
Nintz?
actually pronounced it out loud.
Ninx.
Ninx, yes.
In excess. Yeah.
So let's just go from the top here. Mako Spince is a friend of Han Solo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Who betrays them,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. I think that actually qualifies all four of these except for Sala.
Well, Sala Zend is Han's ex-girlfriend,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And Han immediately is like, "Hey, Leia, this is my ex." All right.
Well, I would be too, man. The way Leia has been acting, despite the fact you know they're brother and sister at this point,
Yeah.
good lord, the weeping and whining she does over Luke is just like
Yeah.
they're in the bedroom at one point, literally.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, how's it going, babe?" And she's like, "We have to save Luke, Luke." And it just goes off on this whole big tangent. And it's just like, stop.
Yeah.
Just like, I get he's your brother, but it's just it's weird.
It's weird.
It's
sure.
weird.
Right.
Okay, sorry. That's going to get into a larger critique later.
Right. And then there's Shug. Shug Ninsk is also Han's friend. I like how he's portrayed in this. He has some weird like circles or
Yeah, it looks like he has,
tattoos
like,
around his
scales or
mouth.
tattoos around his mouth.
Like
yeah.
he's a humanoid. He's
Yeah.
clearly a human, but he has weird. Like maybe it's just Cam Kennedy's artwork. Maybe that's like stubble or something.
Maybe it's just it's not
acne.
stubble. It might be really nasty syphilis, herpes, something.
Right.
Could be.
So the way this goes down is Han is like, "Hey, let's go back to my old apartment and check it out." You know. So Han like introduces Leia to his ex-girlfriend, and then immediately is like, "Hey, let's go back to my old shag pad, and I can show you where I used to bring the ladies home."
That sexy girl.
Yeah,
You know,
this is
the
where
one
we
who's
did
not
it.
pregnant, the one
Yeah.
who's really hot.
That's where we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do it to her.
Right?
all
So
the
they
time.
go, like, for whatever reason, they go back to Han's apartment.
Yes.
Right? And Mako betrayed them. And who's at Han's apartment? Which makes absolutely no sense at all.
Oh, I don't know about that. But
I mean, the fact that he's there. Like, not that he's in this, but the fact that he's just been hanging out at Han's apartment on this planet for how long?
it's Dengar and Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Wait, no, he's dead.
No, Ron. They
This is-
explained in the letters column that he
He survived.
has a grappling hook. He's got a
Yeah, he
rocket
got
bag.
out of there. He can't be eaten by a Sarlacc. That's not going to stop him.
No.
Yeah, so Boba Fett is just kind of waiting to ambush him at Han's shag pad.
Which I'm all for that because Cam Kennedy draws the best Boba Fett.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that the Cam Kennedy's artwork for Boba Fett is definitely
All those years of Judge Dredd paid off. That's
Right,
big
but this
helmets on
introduction of Boba Fett, like, although badass, you can, like, I don't know if it's just, you know, the first time that Cam drew Boba Fett, but he looks a little sickly to me.
Well, he's got to be in his 50s or 60s by this point. He spent some time in a Sarlacc pit. I mean, what do you want from him? He was in the Clone Wars, for Christ's sake.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Did you see what Anakin looked like in Jedi?
Yeah,
Imagine what he looks like.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, so Boba's back, and I think everybody is just like, I know this is, you know, EU and Legends, but everyone is just like, yeah, this is... Didn't what's his name, Rinsler, say that Boba Fett actually survived? They made that canon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we were all kind of happy when this happened in 1996. It's like, oh, yeah, Boba Fett didn't die.
Well, this might have been the height of Boba popularity, I think.
Yeah.
Like 96, like Wolverine and Boba Fett were like the two.
Right,
you know?
right. So Boba's back. They somehow Leia and Han escape him, even though they're holding them at gunpoint.
The escape's actually kind of a funny scene. Like a Hutt gets killed by
Boba by accident. Right. A Hutt is kind of flying around on like a skiff. Oh. And Han and Leia like kind of jump on the skiff, and the Hutt falls to his death.
Yeah, and I think Kennedy draws the exact same scene in the Fat Lady Sings or whatever. One of the Boba Fett shots.
Yeah.
Because he just draws a great like free falling slug
Hutt
person. But anyhow. Also,
as they're on Narshada,
yes,
Leia runs into a homeless woman.
Ah, you mean Vima Daboga?
The famous Vima Daboda.
Yeah, Daboda. Yes, right.
Yeah, she is a homeless Jedi woman.
Now, this scene always stuck out with me when we talked about when we talked about reading it.
Yeah.
That was one of the scenes that I immediately remembered, because it's bizarre, because she has a lightsaber that she gives to Leia. She gives
Leia a lightsaber, which is in a box, so you don't actually see it as a lightsaber. It's kind of a square-looking rectangular thing, and it's like, well, what did she give? And then later,
why did the lady give you a vibrator? Like, what is that?
What is that? No? But yeah, like later Leia opens up and it's like, oh, it's a lightsaber. So this is where Leia really gets her first lightsaber.
Yeah.
Right? And Vima Daboda has like a vision
And Vima Daboda in the EU has a whole history that, you know, the prequels will eventually just wipe away, because a large part of her history involves having a daughter who is also a Jedi.
Yes.
And which of course would be verboten in our current understanding of the Jedi Order.
Right.
You know, you can't have kids.
Yeah, right.
And
So I think that kind of covers all of the newer characters that are introduced at the moment.
Right.
There is another character, like Leia and Han go and meet up with Luke on Biss.
Yep.
Right? And that's where we find out.
Because the whole point of going back there was they had to get aboard a ship or get the clearance that someone else had to trade in that deep sector where Biss is.
Yeah,
so they could make it through without problems.
Right. Two things that really kind of happened here. Like the Millennium Falcon is kind of docked on another ship, and that's how they get through. Mm-hmm. Right? The Falcon doesn't fly into Biss. Like, it's kind of docked on this other transport. Right? Which is owned by Shug.
Sure.
Right? And prior to this, like, Luke got to Biss on a Mandalore Jedi prison ship.
Uh-huh.
Which is totally against anything that we later...
Well, yeah, because that's the Mandalorian ship that... it's the Mandalorian ship that they used to haul the Jedi on.
Right, during the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, this is stuff that, this has totally been overwritten by canon now.
But I brought that up to you. I remember I brought that up to you, and you're like, yeah, it's kind of a cubey ship, kind of cubist.
Yeah, it works. It works for me.
All their architectures are Picasso-based, so yeah, sure. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That works.
Yeah, it works for me. But you said that, like, you the way they talk about Mandalore is almost like it's a metal and not a place.
Yeah, there's a part where they talk about his cell, and, like, They talk about it being Mandalorian.
Right.
So it's like it's unbreakable. It's Mandalorian. Almost like they're talking about like Wolverine's adamantium or something.
Right.
And it's like...
Because we didn't know it at the time. We didn't know.
Well, if you think about it, when you say Boba Fett's Mandalorian armor, it's like you could be saying his unbreakable Mandalorian metal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This was all we knew at the time. You know. So.
It's important to note also that Lucas had almost no like input on the story.
Well, okay, so Lucas.
Oh, sorry. Let him jump at the gun. Let's just wrap the story up.
Yeah, well,
because,
okay, so...
That would took forever to explain issue 2. And, like, let's just cut to the chase. They get back to Biss. It's hard to explain because Leia and Luke literally just have a conversation in front of the Emperor, hang out.
Right.
Lando's off having a battle over on Mon Calamari.
Because there's the new bad, evil device.
Yeah, the big galaxy-threatening device now is the...
World Devastators.
And
these are like...
Death Stars.
Yeah, these are like large, square-looking ships that kind of... Instead of destroying a planet, they don't destroy the planet. They just destroy everything on it. And kind of leave,
recycle it.
Yeah, and
it's
leave...
very 90s.
Isn't it very...
Spaceballs? That's what I thought. No, seriously, it looks like a vacuum. They suck everything up. And they
but isn't that what they did? Like wasn't this the plot of Man of Steel? Wasn't this what's his Zahn?
Well, that was terraforming. It's same diff.
It's kind of the same thing. These are like giant terraformers.
Only this isn't really remaking the planet. This is just
sucking everything off.
Well, it's taking all the resources to make more world killers.
Right.
That's the dangerous thing is that these things suck all your resources and they make more of themselves.
Right.
They're just pure destruction.
Right. And so they are the first planet that they're devastating is Admiral Akbar's home planet, Mon Calamari.
Yeah, not to be confused with what do they call it nowadays?
Mon Cal.
Right,
because they had to rewrite that because Mark Hamill made too much fun of the fact that
it was a bunch of squid.
Yeah, the squid planet is basically an appetizer.
But yeah, proudly Mon Calamari here, and it also gets a great little backstory. They talk about how it was like when the Empire tried to squash it down, like it sparked this great rebellion, this great resistance. It was
That's right. And what I find interesting about this is, so basically the war that's going on in this book on Mon Calamari is taking place on the surface level. Mm-hmm. You know, so you see kind of the alliance in like boats.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when Dave Filoni gets his hands on, you know, exploring Mon Cal, which is what it becomes in the Clone Wars, it becomes an epic battle underwater instead of above water. Mm-hmm. You know, he just kind of flips it, and I don't know which one's better because that story arc in the Clone Wars of everybody kind of having a fight underwater bored the hell out of me.
Worst story arc.
Yeah, it was really with the shark.
Yeah.
Bad guy.
It was one of those story arcs I really wanted to like because I liked how goofy everything was, but I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of prefer seeing Rebels in kind of boats is weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, to wrap it up, basically what happens is the Emperor is also still causing force storms, helping the Empire and such.
Well, he can't be killed.
That's right.
Because every time his body is destroyed, he just transfers his dark presence, into another clone.
Yep.
Right? And he has a whole stockpile of clones. Mm-hmm. You know, at one point Luke confronts him and starts, you know, confronts the old Emperor and starts kind of destroying all of these cocoons that the clones are in, and doesn't work because the Emperor already transfers into a younger clone. You know, and they have like this epic lightsaber fight. The new Emperor, young clone, and you know Luke, who's toying with the dark side. You know, it's like naked clone guy against dark Luke. Yeah. You know, clearly the Emperor clone is naked. and clearly he has no genitals.
Yes.
Like there's a scene where his legs are spread open in the fight, and it's like, yeah, he's just smooth down there.
Oh yeah, it's like Kindle.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing. It's like, okay, well, the Emperor can't be killed, and the dark side can't be killed.
And the Emperor learned of cloning technology from a Jedi holocron.
Right, the holocron, which...
So he has this ancient Jedi artifact, this holocron, which Leia just up and steals.
She just up and steals, and then, again, Luke is like, I have to do this on my own, and Leia and Han
Leia
are like,
goes off to some other room in the Emperor's headquarters, right?
Oh, no, I thought, again, they just leave.
Okay, well, fair enough. She just leaves, whatever. But
this is what they do, is Luke tells them to leave.
Yeah.
Okay, Luke downloads the plans for the World Devastator into R2.
Yes.
How to destroy him.
It almost takes up too much of his memory.
Right.
C-3PO is
C-3PO's all
freaked
worried,
out by
right?
that. Yeah.
And says that he's going with Han and Leia. And once they're away from Biss, like they realize that Luke is just an apparition. Right. He used the dark side trick on him, and he's not actually there.
Yeah.
Right. He disappears. And it's like, oh, he wasn't there, and and Han is like, fuck Luke.
Yeah, he literally is like, fuck that guy. If I see him again, I'm gonna shoot him.
Yeah,
and
so they download the plans for R2, and they're like, oh, this is we know how to stop the World Devastators now, right?
And that takes care of that part of that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Leia starts opening the holocron, talks to some ancient, goofy-looking Jedi.
Right, Boda Boss.
And Boda Boss basically gives her in very Man of Steel kind of way, in terms of like having someone who's dead be there, like guiding them.
Right.
Gives her the pep talk she needs to go get Luke, give him the pep talk.
Right.
And by this point, Luke and the Emperor have started going off mano a mano. This is a clone.
Well, Luke is basically submitted himself to the dark side.
Yes, but he's still fighting the Emperor at this point.
Right. Yeah. He's basically like, Luke feels he's so powerful that he can turn to the dark side and use that to stop the Emperor.
Classic Gollum complex.
Right.
Leia comes back in the middle of this whole confrontation. It's a whole big thing. She basically uses her love power. She's pregnant at this point.
That's right.
Turns Luke back. Luke gets the strength he needs. He can't fight the Emperor alone.
He learns that he can't
do it all alone.
Can't do it all alone.
That's
like
right.
he that's his arc in this.
And literally, like Wonder Twins style, Leia and Luke, hand in hand, defeat the Emperor by telling him that the dark side is really about fear and he's scared.
Well, the other thing that Leia tells Luke at this point is
it's his baby.
She almost says that, but no. But what she tells them is really something that drives the rest of the EU forward. Is you will train my children to be great Jedi.
Without you, there's no one. You're the last. They repeatedly said in the book, he's the last Jedi.
Yeah. So that is something like. This was 1996. This was carried forward throughout the rest of the EU. That led to the Young Jedi Knight series. Luke basically
Dark Empire 2 is all about him founding it.
This is the seed for everything that kind of goes forward with the EU.
From a larger story standpoint, so let's just sum it up real quick. They do defeat the Emperor.
Yes,
there's a happy ending.
They
so
use their forces of good and stop him, and it's like, that's it.
Yeah, done. It is pretty like
that was easy.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. And it ends on the note, like you said, the Jedi Knights will rise again.
Yes.
And that is kind of an interesting arc. It starts out with a Luke who's war-torn, tired, kind of aimless, reached kind of the pinnacle he could alone, and starts considering maybe the dark side. Maybe just because he's almost bored. He doesn't really have a purpose.
Right.
He's kind of just aimless.
Right.
And by the end of the story, he finds the purpose. The purpose is to restore the order of the Jedi Knights.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it's a pretty substantial book in that right. Mm-hmm. It really is the foundation for everything that comes afterwards in the EU.
Now, before we get to any kind of like behind the scenes stuff,
Okay.
let's just go through some of the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Because really, part of what I liked about it more than the story, because I realized as we started summing up the story, as a whole, it's okay.
It's okay, yeah.
But like reading it as individual issues and the individual bits and beats,
Yes.
is like really the fun stuff.
Yes.
Like the Mandalore, the Ewoks coming back.
Oh, yeah, let's go back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have your notes in there. Yeah. Okay, so what I read this, I kind of started ahead of you, and, I was kind of plowing through it, and you're like, oh, the Ewoks are in this. And I totally missed it, because I was just really focusing on the main characters, not really keeping my eye out about what's going on in the background, right? And I'm like, no, they are not there.
Yeah, you were like, that's a badly drawn Wookiee.
Yeah.
And there are a couple badly drawn Wookiees.
True. But then you send me screenshots
Of clear
where
Ewoks.
there's clearly Ewoks in it, right?
Yeah.
What I love about this is, like, so there's a war going on. And in, like, issue 1 and issue 2, the Ewoks are there. And then, they just disappear.
Yeah,
right?
they're not referenced.
They're not referenced. They're not drawn in the background anymore. Like I kind of, like, I made up this story in my head that, they just use the Ewoks for, like, the front line. Mm-hmm. And they are immediately slaughtered.
See, I like the idea that Cam Kennedy is, like, he's kind of a surface-level Star Wars fan. He saw the movies, but he's not a massive nut,
Yeah.
So because they're never referenced in the, like, dialogue.
Right.
Like, no one's ever like, oh, don't forget.
Yeah, they never mention them, right.
Yeah. So I like the idea he was drawing it, and he was like, well, I saw,
Return of Jedi.
Return of the Jedi, like, they love those Ewok guys, so
yeah.
clearly they'll have them in their ragtag band of like, friends.
Right.
And, like, issue 3, like, Barbara Schultz, the editor, had to be like, Cam, don't show the
Don't
Ewoks.
show the Ewoks
People don't
anymore.
like the Ewoks.
Well, the other thing that, like, another scenario that played out in my head is, like, okay, so the big war in this book is a water planet. Right. So they go to this water planet, and,
which, by the way, Lando is fighting.
Yeah, Lando and Wedge are fighting the war.
Yeah,
They're
Lando
generals.
and Wedge are like buddies.
Yeah,
and it's
they're
kind
generals.
of, they didn't get enough. We didn't talk enough about them.
They're really good in this. Yeah, but, like, I like to think that, like, the rebels, the Alliance, whatever, they drop down on the planet. The Ewoks are the first ones to dive into the water, and we immediately find out that Ewoks can't swim, and they drown immediately.
And they're kind of like lemmings. Like, one of them goes in the water, and the other ones just follow.
And all the other rebels are like, huh. So that happened.
It's horrible for morale. Yeah, and I think we kind of covered Mandalore a little bit. Yeah, the Clone Wars are repeatedly referenced.
Yes.
And there's a clear misunderstanding of what went down in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of works, but then there's also, like, it's very, like, odd references such as the Emperor brought about clone technology from a Jedi holocron. It was hidden Jedi technology.
Right.
And it's interesting. It's interesting to look back at a world where, Return of the Jedi was so much more important than it feels nowadays.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, an artist would be like, oh, yeah, naturally, I'll put the Ewoks in because that was a big part of the last movie.
Right.
And, like, in a place where you're referencing, it's like, well, what could you know about back then? All we have is this one throwaway line of Clone Wars. It's like, we know there's clones. We know there was a war. We know there used to be Jedi.
Right.
And, like, it's cool reverse engineering, kind of.
Right.
Okay. So a big thing for me, because she's such a big character in this, is Leia.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel Leia came off on this? Because I felt kind of bad for Leia.
Yeah,
I don't think EU Leia
seems a little bit directionless.
Ooh, man, yeah, talk about directionless. Like, the thing that's hard about this is that they are really trying hard to make her a center of focus in a good way.
Yeah. They're
really trying hard to make Leia, like, she is ostensibly the main character of the series.
Right.
And so they do it in a weird way, though, because they're like, well, let's make her cooler. She's now in touch with the Force. She's got Force powers. There's a scene where she, like, flies Millennium Falcon.
She's got the cool, like, baseball hat.
Yeah,
like,
and later on the long straight hair. Like, my thing was that, like, being in touch with the Force and being able to pilot the Millennium Falcon only serves to kind of make her more in the shadow of Luke and Han.
Yeah, right.
Not less.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was less of an identity for her.
Right. Well, she gets her lightsaber.
Yeah.
And she ignites it in front of the Emperor, and the Emperor almost immediately just strikes her down and shatters it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't understand any of those Emperor interactions, to be honest, in terms of, it was, cool in some points, and then some points it was wait, did someone just steal something from the Emperor and, walk out of the room?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Weird. I think honestly, everyone, what they intended is just, to shock everyone with the fact that the Emperor is still back and now he's a young guy.
Yeah.
Right? That they didn't really have to, fill in the details of everything else that's going on around there.
And you can kind of plotify that a little bit and be well, he's just regenerated,
Right.
But bigger issue, holocrons.
The holocron. So the holocron, I mean, this is something from the EU that has made its way into canon.
I never liked the holocrons in the EU. I never liked them.
Do you like them in Rebels?
No, not particularly.
Okay.
They make sense.
Yeah.
But it's in a weird way.
The holocrons were even mentioned in the prequels, right?
I think they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay with them.
Yeah.
Because it is a cool idea that there's this piece of technology you can only open if you have force powers.
Right.
But it's also weird because it's an external hard drive.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little box.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I don't know. And I just don't...
It does feel un-Star Wars-y.
And it feels un-Star Wars-y, exactly.
But it feels like a necessity. Because...
Is it?
Well, I mean, if...
I guess it's you can't find a stone tablet in a world where you're flying in hyperdrive.
Well,
right?
I mean...
No?
If you're going to make all of the Jedi extinct...
Sure.
Where's the new Jedi going to get the knowledge from? Yoda's dead. I'll admit, not completely thought through, even to this day.
Yeah.
Are we going to see Ghost Yoda and Ghost Obi-Wan in the new movie? Are they going to still be talking to Luke? Are they going to still be imparting wisdom?
That's
to
a
Luke?
fascinating thing about this book. No ghost characters.
Right.
Other than the holocron.
I also read a rumor that, Lucas had a thought for Return of the Jedi that Obi-Wan and Yoda would actually come back to life. That they actually had the power to...
Come and go.
Yeah. So...
Because they disappeared.
Right.
Why not?
I mean, that's something that I guess will have to be covered off. Because I feel and I'm going to have to revisit it, but I feel like there was a scene in the Zahn trilogy where Obi-Wan is peace out, I can't talk to you anymore.
Right.
Right?
Right. I think I remember that as well.
Right?
And we're going to have to do a Thrawn trilogy
We're going to
someday.
have to do that someday. We're just going to have to take the time to revisit it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's going to have to be re-explained in canon, why Luke is no longer seeing ghosts. Or why no one's...
Or how they could do it to begin with.
Exactly. It needs to be further fleshed out.
But the thing is, to me, that is so much more straightforward than a holocron. Because to me, with a holocron, it's well, can I put the Death Star plans on it? Can I, what can I do with it?
Maybe there's a big holocron inside R2-D2.
Yeah.
Maybe R2-D2's a holocron.
Oh, he's a Jedi. Yeah. So holocrons, I don't know. I think that those are a bad thing, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean,
they're just because the problem is that they're so ill-defined. A lightsaber is pretty well-defined at this point.
Yes.
Even all the goofy stuff you add to it. Now it's 2 lightsabers. Now it's a lightsaber and a blaster. Now it's a lightsaber with 2 vents. It's always it's a sword made of lasers.
Right.
Right. It's pretty finite what it can do.
Yes.
But a holocron is I can talk to somebody from millennia ago. I can train myself. I can learn things. It's very... I never liked that even back in the day.
Right. Should we talk about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff? Or do you have more story stuff?
I do have one more thing about... When we were talking about the whole... Yoda and Obi-Wan both go into the Force.
Yep.
Like they die and they disappear and go in the Force.
Yes.
It wasn't until I read this and I read them talking about the way they were about the Emperor, about him being like unafraid to be struck down and stuff.
Yeah.
I never considered that could be an option for the other side.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's kind of like, because at first I was like, when we went into this, I was like, ugh, this is such a trite idea that the Emperor could like put his essence into clones, and it seems so silly.
Right.
But as I read it, I was like, no, this makes sense.
It does make sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Like why? Yeah, he brought clone technology to the Republic. Why wouldn't he utilize that?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting, I think.
Like, what do you think about that?
Is this stuff that has to be explored in the future movies? Like,
if it was explored in the future movie, if in the next movie it ended with a young, nude, genitalless Emperor emerging, cloned,
sure.
What would you say? Would you be like, would you think that was cool or uncool?
Honestly, I don't think that we're going to get an Emperor. We're going to get a Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Darth Vader is going to be in it, right? I think that, I mean, I don't know. Like, one of the things that we didn't talk about at the top of this episode was, like, this was going on the internet maybe a week ago, was the whole Lucas came out and said, Disney's not using my ideas.
Yeah.
Right? Disney's totally not using my ideas. Right?
Yeah.
And, everybody kind of took that quote and ran with it.
Oh, fuck
right?
Yes.
But maybe they're not using his exact ideas, but they're not throwing everything out from Lucas. Like, I think one of the sites is like, look, there's going to be plenty of movies, and whatever Lucas's ideas were, just like all the ideas in the EU, like, moving forward, they're going to pick and choose what they will and won't use from Lucas and the EU. Right?
It's interesting because, like, when you talk about it like that, I just want to think that they're really good at marketing, and they're really good at understanding fan bases and how they interact and how they interact with a franchise, right? And, like, I would love the idea that they're like, well, your fans like these established things, but George wanted to do something like the prequels, that, like, was totally different from what he'd given before.
Right. Right.
And they were like, well, like, they're not going to react well to that. Like,
right. Well, I mean, I don't know, but
who knows? We'll see.
I do feel like, I know this is an EU book, that it's been wiped away, but, like, it is bringing up questions that aren't answered in canon.
Right. Well, I guess that's what I kept getting at with the whole logical linear thinking thing.
Yeah.
Is that, to me, this is about the best you could get from, with no prequels or anything, looking at just those first three movies and logically thinking it out and being like, what would be a great way to continue this on?
Sure.
This and the Thrawn trilogy are kind of like really good linear thinking things. But in retrospect, 15, 20 years out, you look at it and you say, oh, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, again, that's where we're getting a lot of the rumors of Episode 7. We've talked about, we've heard rumors that the Empire is still going on, and now it's split into factions, and they're warring against each other, and there's, people defecting and, going to the other side, and, like, that's happening in this book. We've had rumors that, oh my God, the big twist in Episode 7 is Luke turns to the dark side. And I was just like, well, been there, done that. Dark Empire, 1996. Like,
Word.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I guess the big question is, like, if not this, then what?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, because my concern is that if they're not using a Lucas idea, which might be, very silly, very insane, very whatever you want to say about the Clone Wars and all that stuff, but, like, that would have been probably different. My biggest fear would be that it's just going to be spit polished fanfic, because at the end of the day,
sure,
that's what the EU is. Yeah, it's fans making fiction.
Right. I mean, I guess my big question is, like, okay, so Lucas maybe had his crazy ass ideas about what Episode 7 was going to be. You know, he even talked about the fact that he was planning on making it before Disney was like, yeah, we're going to buy it from you. He was actually thinking about making Episode 7.
Yeah, like he might just do one more and call it a day.
And then sell it off, right? Okay, so that's one. In one corner, you have Lucas and what his idea is for how these characters have progressed, right? In another corner, you have the EU and countless books of how these characters have progressed. You know, up to 30 odd years beyond Return of the Jedi.
Oh,
right?
yeah, more than that, I believe.
Right?
I mean, I think you have like Luke Skywalker's grandson, great-grandson,
yeah, right.
with
Cade Skywalker.
Bounty Hunter
Jedi. So, I mean, there's been a lot of people who have thought this through.
Oh, yeah.
Right? A lot of people have thought this through.
A lot of talented people, too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? And now you have the story group. What are their thoughts on this that are different from Lucas's and different from the
30 years, yeah, totally.
The countless novels and comic books.
Yeah, because Dark Horse was publishing comic books right up until the end.
Right. So, like, what?
They were even
what are you
publishing
going to bring new?
Infinities, which was basically a what if series.
Yeah. So it'll be a very interesting walking into that theater and just being like, okay, what's going to be familiar? What's going to not be familiar? What's going to be like, oh, that's from this. Oh, that's Dark Empire. Oh, that's the Thrawn trilogy. Or like, are we going to be like, the collective fan base is like, oh, none of us thought of that. What are the odds of that happening?
Well, to be fair, I'll give them this this section, and that's that. One thing about fanfic is it's very precious.
Yeah,
and it plays within the rules because it has to, because it doesn't own it. So I would say that one thing that's open to JJ that maybe we're not expecting is that the rules won't necessarily apply because they own it.
Right. Right.
So if they decide that what they need is to zag when everything in the story says to zig, they could.
Yeah, they could.
We'll see.
We'll see.
That said, I am now ready to proceed.
All right. Behind the scenes stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Lucas did have some ideas for this.
Okay.
Initially.
Okay.
His thought was to bring back someone dressed like Vader, an imposter Vader.
Okay.
Okay. Again,
Polyester Vader.
Well, again, this rings of familiarity to what we've heard rumors of the
right.
Episode 7, right?
That's right.
But that was squashed immediately. It's like, no, Tom Veitch and Cam Kennedy are like, no, how about a cloned empire, a resurrected emperor?
Right.
Right. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll go with that way. So that was really like Lucas's real, kind of initial thoughts for this. That maybe it's Vader, that, there's a guy dressed as Vader. Which is interesting because we later get that with Boba Fett, with Yoda cast.
Oh, yeah,
which we'll get into on a different episode. But, again, like, how many new ideas are out there and how much is recycled? The other big behind-the-scenes thing that's going on with this is, so this was released in 1996, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe the Thrawn trilogy started in 1994. Maybe it was starting to be written in 91.
Right? That all sounds accurate, right? Yes.
And Timothy Zahn, who wrote the Thrawn trilogy, he was adamant that in continuity, the Thrawn trilogy takes place before Dark Empire. Okay? When clearly the events in Dark Empire, it makes more sense that Dark Empire happens before the Thrawn trilogy.
Is that so?
Yeah, because in the Thrawn trilogy, Luke has already decided he's going to start an academy.
Oh, yeah,
right?
That is true.
And it kind of makes more sense to kind of
because you can shoehorn the whole Empire. I guess that was their get out of jail free card was the Imperial Civil War.
Yeah.
It's because the power vacuum is Grand Admiral Thrawn's.
Right. But like, it makes more sense to be like, oh, let's kind of have a big final battle with a resurrected emperor before we move on to other big bad guys, right? Mm-hmm. Like Thrawn. So, but because of Timothy Zahn's stubbornness, he wanted his to be first out of the gate. He wanted his to be the first. So there is a little bit of controversy there of like which came first, Dark Empire or the Zahn trilogy, the Thrawn trilogy. Right. And that's, I mean, do you have the timeline in front of you, don't you? Somewhere?
I do have the timeline.
Like I think it's blurry which one's really first in EU canon or EU timeline.
Yes, let me see here. Well, actually, it's not blurry. It's
what are they saying comes first?
9+ years ASW4 is the Thrawn trilogy.
Okay.
10 years ASW4 is Dark Empire, so it's within months.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Like I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think about this until revisiting this, but I kind of feel like screw Timothy Zahn. Like this was really what happens first. I mean, we're splitting hairs here, which is what we do on Delusions of Granular. But
it's funny because this is also another portent of the future. This is also the first time you have a unified, quote unquote, unified canon.
Yes,
they're trying to all unify it. Like,
yes,
Tom Veitch met with what's his name? The other author, the other big Star Wars author who did the Young Jedi Knights series.
Kevin J. Anderson. Yes.
Yeah, him and Kevin J. Anderson got together and talked about what characters each could use.
Yes.
He used some of Kevin's. He used some of Tom's. Like,
right.
This was a very organic, kind of fan based canon.
Yes.
Like it wasn't like a corporate put together story realm.
But Timothy Zahn really was like he was not playing in this. Like if his story came first, he doesn't. Whatever comes first, he does not reference anything that happens in Dark Empire. Okay, he doesn't use any of those characters. There's no mention of a resurrected clone.
It's interesting.
Clone emperor, right?
I guess I'd like to know more about the politics of those authors because Kevin J. Anderson totally does. In the Young Jedi Knights
exactly.
series.
And then later on, Zahn writes another Star Wars book called Vision of the Future.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one.
And this is and this came years later, okay?
I know the Outbound whatever one.
Yeah, whatever that is, right? But what happens is Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker have a conversation about, remember when there was a clone emperor? Remember when that happened? And Mara Jade is like, if that was even the real emperor. Like he kind of erases the whole
classic.
He erases the importance of Dark Empire in one line in his book.
That's like old school John Byrne, Chris Claremont stuff. Like those two guys did John Byrne's an artist and Chris Claremont's a writer, and they did X-Men together for years.
Yeah,
the classic definitive X-Men run.
Right.
And then they split, and John Byrne started writing and drawing Fantastic Four. And whenever Doctor Doom was used in X-Men, then he would immediately do a Fantastic Four story that showed that was actually one of his life model decoys.
Yeah.
Or one of his it was like a fake story.
Yeah.
So, but just to give a illustration here of how important this was to the authors involved.
Yes.
I'm going to read kind of a longer quote. It's this from Tom Veitch.
Okay.
And it's him ruminating on his days as a Star Wars writer.
Okay.
He goes, "Some days I used to just sit with a cup of coffee and just spin out possibilities for hours. At that point in my life, Star Wars was a big part of my thinking. I was a fan, of course, but it was more than that. I had this idea that because the Jedi were spiritual warriors, like ancient Japanese swordsmen, we could eventually balance off the dark side of the Force with a new exposition about what constituted the light side of the Force. I used to dream about doing that at night. Maybe I was nuts." And it's like, reading that, I was just like, man, these guys were just so into this.
They were into it, right?
You gotta understand, I don't think that, and I haven't read anything about this, but I don't think Tom Veitch was approached to make this. I think he kind of put this together as a proposal.
Sure.
And
Much like Dave Filoni with Clone Wars. I mean,
is that true?
well, Dave Filoni, the history of Dave Filoni is he put together a treatment for what became Rebels.
Oh.
And Lucas is like, that's a great idea, but why don't you do this first? And that's how Clone Wars came to be.
Oh,
right.
okay.
And then once Clone Wars was, became the quote unquote success that it is.
Massive.
That's when
He got
Lucas,
the green light
he got the green light to do Rebels.
Yeah, and I bet he regrets that every day.
We do.
Oh.
So we mentioned this earlier. This did start out as a Marvel project.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel actually ran an ad, which I was desperately trying to find. Yeah, I wanted to find the original Marvel ad for Dark Empire, just to see how different it would have been, right? But yeah, it started out as a Marvel project, and during the incubation of this, Dark Horse wins the license for Star Wars.
Wow.
And it immediately becomes, as you said, the first Dark Horse Star Wars adaptation out of the gate.
Yeah, and this is at a big time for them. They're at the same time they're doing some of their earlier stuff for Alien, Predator, RoboCop. They're also just a few months off of the heels of Sin City, Frank Miller's seminal work. And Archie Goodwin had been the editor of the later Star Wars Marvel books.
Right.
At this point in time, he was doing the epic stuff, which would have fallen under the epic banner probably. Archie Goodwin gets a call out in the comic book itself.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. You really had eagle eyes on that.
Yeah, I was very excited about that.
It was
Nine Numb.
Nine Numb is in this.
Nine Numb speaks, kind of a gobbledygook language.
Right.
And so there's a few backwards words in there, and one of them is it's towards the beginning of the story, but he clearly says Archie Goodwin backwards.
Crazy.
I was very happy that I spotted that.
That's funny. That is so funny. You pulled a lot of screen grabs for this.
I did.
We have, kind of a digital copy of this. I think, I don't have a lot more to say about this other than to really go back and talk about the art.
Oh, yeah.
The art style, the art. Like, as much as I kind of almost loathed this when I first read it, like, the visuals in this are so striking that when I revisited this later and really came to appreciate the art and love it for what it is, so many of these frames in this are so iconic to me.
Oh my god! This is truly a guy at the top of his game, experienced pro. These pages are all hand colored also.
Yeah.
By Cam Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I read several interviews with him where he talks about the process and about how people come up to him, and even though he's drawing in this style, which is very over the top, it's not really realism. It's not
realism at all. There's, the use of color in this is amazing. There's whole pages that are just like green and blue. The characters are green and the backgrounds are blue.
So many people came up to him though and said it felt so cinematic. It felt like the movies.
Sure.
And that's what he said was I studied the movies. I studied the color palette, and that's what made it feel Star Wars.
Yeah,
and it totally works. You totally get what he's saying when you actually read it.
It does feel like it feels cinematic. I don't know if it feels like the Star Wars movies that we know of,
right?
But it does feel like a future Star Wars movie, maybe.
Sure.
It does feel, as much as I didn't like this early on when I read it. I do really appreciate it. I all of the small moments in this are very well done. The overarching large, scene setups are very well done. When we just see these kind of the devastation of the war
Oh yeah.
You know, it's really breathtaking. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't recommend it enough. If you're a fan of comic art, I mean, high recommendation on that one.
Yeah.
You know, one thing when we were talking about behind the scenes stuff, I forgot to mention. In issue 6, there's a letter from a young, well, I don't know how young he was, but a man named Rob Morris. And I won't say his whole letter, but he does say at one point, one question. I heard that in 1997, Lucasfilm's going to start making 6 more movies. 3 before Star Wars and 3 more after Return of the Jedi. Is this true?
That was everyone's question.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, everyone had that question.
I think it was a fun read. It was very fun to revisit this time, and I gotta say, with Rebels sucking so much ass lately, I'm kind of looking to go back towards the EU more often, especially these comic books.
Oh yeah, this was good fun.
Yeah.
This is good fun, folks. If you can track down a Dark Empire, I believe there's got to be a trade for it.
Oh yeah, well that was
I know I had the
it's
trade.
one of the earliest successful trades.
Yeah.
I also had the trade.
But can you find it now?
Ooh,
I don't know.
hard telling.
Yeah. Track it down if you can. Go next time there's a comic book convention. I'm sure you'll be able to dig it up there somewhere.
I bet you can get it a lot of places. There's also Dark Empire 2.
Yeah, we haven't. I don't remember if I read that one.
That is when they actually bring back the temple and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Which is
this still Cam Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Empire's End is the third one, which I did not read. And that's the artist Jim Bakey, who I believe is another Brit, and but I'm very familiar with his artwork. He's a great artist, so he should be able to handle it well.
All right.
One thing I was going to ask about this comic, though, you've read more of the Marvel comics than I have.
Yes.
Star Wars Marvel comics.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like as I was reading that, I was like, maybe this isn't so much a continuation of the movies, so much as it is the comic book. Because a lot of the Han Solo drawings were very kind of inspired by that Howard Chaykin Han Solo, I felt like.
Sure. I could see that. I mean, I think, like we said, they didn't really know where or if Star Wars was going to move forward. You know, so they were just like, well, you know, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, someone stumbles across Star Wars comic books. You know,
right.
Maybe that's their first, you know, initiation into this world, you know, instead of the movies. You know, like, I don't think anybody really had the foresight to think that Star Wars was going to live on, you know, forever and ever. You know, like Disney, nobody had thought, you know, Disney was going to buy it. No one thought that Lucas was going to make more movies. You know, like, I don't think any of us really thought that we would, you know, in 2015, we would be getting new movies.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because I could remember a time when Star Wars wasn't popular. You know what I mean? That dead period. And so I kind of thought that it could go back to that. Right.
So I mean, if you're, if you're digging this stuff up in the archives in comic book stores, you know, who's to say that this isn't a continuation of, you know, the Marvel line? Yeah, like Cam Kennedy in interviews talked about that it wasn't very, when the project was brought to him, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, Star Wars isn't as popular as it used to be, but yeah, we can see if we can do something with it. Right. You know, as if you were bringing him like GoBots or something. Right. Right. I mean, I haven't read the old run of Marvel Star Wars. You know, I've read some of it. It gets pretty wacky. You know, there's Luke battling like sea monsters and Han on pirate ships, actual like pirate ships, not pirate spaceships, but pirates. Well, I think we should probably make a commitment here and now. Yeah. That sometime on the run of this podcast, we'll get through that whole Marvel thing. Yeah. We didn't talk much about Dave Dorman. I did forget. I'm emptying out my notes here. Okay. Little fun factoid. Dave Dorman got a big start when he got in with the Heavy Metal crew, the Heavy Metal magazine. Oh, right. At the time, the head of the art department was none other than John Workman, who is a letterer extraordinaire, famous for his collaborations with none other than Howard Chaykin, who is the famous Star Wars artist, comic book artist. So it all comes full circle. Very interesting. Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's
kind of what I've got on this one.
Me too. Me too. I think we covered it off on everything we needed to talk about. Again, I can't highly recommend this, any more than, great fun. Really, really holds up.
If you're like sitting there, if you're watching Rebels week in, week out, and it's not quite hitting the button for you, give this a try. Go back to a simpler time. A time when we only had 3 movies, and we're trying to guess what the Clone Wars could have been.
Yeah. Read Dark Empire, folks.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all we have for tonight. Remember, we are Star Wars Delusions of Granular, where we talk Star Wars.
Don't
hate
mock.
Star Wars.
Let's just say mock.
We don't mock Star Wars?
Yeah, because that rhymes better, right?
Talk, mock,
Mock.
hate,
Talk, mock.
walk.
Mothma.
We don't Mon Mothma Star Wars.
We've never Mon Mothma Star Wars.
All right, folks.
A stripping puppet on a liquid stick gets into it pretty thick. A butterfly drinks a turtle's tears, but how do you know he really needs you? 'Cause a butterfly feeds on a dead monkey's hand. Jesus wept, he felt abandoned. You're spellbound, baby, there's no doubt in that. Did you ever see her stare like a Persian cat? The same eyes, the same lips.